Hello everybody, it's me, Sketch, and I'm going to be doing a bit of a game review of Sonic Generations, a game I personally like and I recently picked up. Now, I understand that this is a little overdue since the game's been out since last November, but still I thought it'd be fit to, express my opinions and my feelings on the game, and a bit of other things relating to it as well. So first off, I'd like to get off to the plot and the story. Now, obviously, there's really not much to it. It seems to try and recapture the soul of Eggman doing something bad and Sonic has to go defeat him, which isn't bad. I mean, I find that simplicity pretty well, and I kind of enjoy something that isn't so complicated or convoluted or anything, like that or related to the such. But I will say that it does seem to be a little choppy, with some of the cutscenes seeming like there was plenty more to the story, and it seemed like it was going to go a lot deeper than what it leads on, but it seems like they kind of cut out a lot due to either time restraints or probably they just thought it would have been a good idea to just simplify the story. Now, I have no problem with that whatsoever, but it does have that feeling of it leaves something to be desired. But I guess we'll see what happens with plots and whatnot when the later Sonic games come out. But that's basically all I have to say on that. The plot isn't much, but it leaves a little something to be desired. But either way, it's A-okay. Now, to get to the meat of this review, I am going to be talking about the gameplay and its aspects that I like and don't like and all that and whatnot. Now, first off, I'll explain that, with each level, it has two acts. And there's 3 levels for each section, with 2 acts for each. And there's the Classic Act and the Modern Act. The Classic is, it takes the feel of the old Sonic games from Sonic's 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles and CD, and so on. And it tries to recapture that same old feel, that good old classic Sonic action that we know and love from the 90s, and also on the handhelds of the early 2000s, etc. And as much as I like the classic style, I do feel like there is a bit that can be desired. Like, I do like how the power-ups can be activated at will, but I would like to see a nice little random elemental shield here and there, along with a few more other items around, but that's a minor thing. I will say, though, that as much as I love the classic game style, I really seem to have a problem with the jump. Because the jump seems to be really gimped or gift or whatever you want to say. It's kind of short-handed in the sense that, the jump seems like it could make some pretty far jumps, but instead it just turns out to be very short-handed and you just barely clip that edge. That seems to be a bit of a pain. And like a lot of other Sonic fans, I do agree that the physics with the roll, it really is short-handed and seems to take the Sonic 4 route with the roll, as in it doesn't gain momentum or speed, and I don't care for that either. I mean, especially because I liked to use the roll, and Sonic Generations really made me abolish what the roll was. So, that's a nitpick. I'm pretty sure a lot of you agree, and I don't blame you. The roll really could have been redone, and it should have that same old feel from the classic games. And I will say I do like the spin dash as well. I do like how powerful that got and how useful it became, even though it kind of overshadows with the roll's uses. But I do like the spin dash, and I do think it's pretty fun to use and it's pretty helpful. And I always enjoy mashing the spin dash button to go real fast and whatnot. And I do enjoy that. And as for the level design, I do like the level design. With the that it tries to recapture those old style of levels with the alternate routes and all the different ways you can choose that, whichever your preference is, and they're not relatively hard to get to. There's no secret routes or secret rooms really, and I quite enjoy that. I think that's always been a nice little touch in the Sonic games with alternate routes. And I do think that the classic, the Act 1's, the classic mode, really did, recapture a lot of what the classic games are, with a few minor problems here and there with physics and etc. But I do enjoy those a lot, and I can say that they did a pretty good job. Not perfect, but or I just think they did a pretty good job, and I don't really have any problems against it beside my minor nitpicks. Now, with the modern stages, it takes a completely new turn, and it builds off the Hedgehog engine, which was introduced in Sonic Unleashed, and I do think it is a lot better than Sonic Unleashed, because I've played Sonic Unleashed, and I really didn't like the daytime stages in Sonic Unleashed as much as people say, as much as people rave about it and give it such a very big reputation. I really didn't care for Sonic Unleashed's daytime stages, mainly because I felt like it was more based on trial and error. Yes, it's based a lot on speed, and I love blazing through levels as Sonic, but I don't like the whole trial and error, like you have to remember where this is, and that takes a lot of the fun out of it, because the fact that I have to memorize the entire level, memorize where all of the bad guys, the traps, the obstacles, and memorize all of where that is just to get the full fun, the full extent out of that level, I don't really care for that. And that's what I liked about what Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations brought. Sonic Generations really built on that, and I really enjoyed how much of a better system the Hedgehog engine was in Generations, because it wasn't so built on speed. It actually brought platforming back to a Sonic game, and I enjoyed that, really. I didn't feel like I had to keep repeating the level over and over again to memorize and get through it without feeling stupid or losing all my momentum or running into so many obstacles and having to stagger into the goal ring. And I actually liked that the levels were well made, that they were very fun to play, that I got an adrenaline rush, and I just thought they were all around enjoyable. They were a lot better than Sonic Unleashed's daytime stages, and I enjoy that. I like that, and I think they made it well. And and I also like it because it's also the Hedgehog engine in Generations, unlike Unleashed, is actually better for pick up and play. Anybody can pick up the game and play the modern stages with no problem. I'm pretty sure it would take them less than 10 tries just to beat the level or get through it without staggering in to the goal ring. And I think that's a very good perk. I mean, I think that allows for younger gamers or newer gamers to the market who try a Sonic game, and instead of trying something like Sonic 06, which would completely turn them off, now we've got Generations, which I think would be a better turn on for gamers to play these games. And I like that perk. I think that's just I think that's a very good feature. And it makes the game all around enjoyable. I mean, I love the gorgeous scenery around for both the classic and the modern stages. I think it's just a whole lot of eye candy, and I think that kind of helps the environment and the atmosphere of the levels. And it allows it to be more enjoyable. It gives you a more, it gets you into it a bit more. It kind of affects how you like the game, since all of the scenery is going to be gorgeous to look at. It's going to be a lot of eye candy. And not only that, but it's also helped with the amazing soundtrack. I love everything they did with the soundtrack, from the old songs that they've remastered and everything, that they've remastered, remade, remixed, and all that jazz. I absolutely love the soundtrack. That's probably one of the highest notes about this game. All of the remixes of the classic tracks and the rearrangements for the modern styles of those tracks, I completely enjoy them. Even though a lot of people will disagree with a lot of the songs, such as Cityscape Act 2, the modern mix of that, I absolutely enjoy it. A lot of people don't. They say it sucks, or at least from what I've read or heard or seen, all that jazz. But I really like Cityscape Act 2 song. And, on that subject, I actually like what they did with Crisis City. As much as I hated Crisis City from Sonic 06, I like what they did with the level and the song. I really like how they restructured that and made that more of an enjoyable level, even though the level did frustrate me a bit more than the other levels did. And I just think all around that makes this game a nice pick-up-and-play game, makes it very enjoyable, allows you to not feel so lost or feel like you have to go through all these endless hours of trial and error, which is a pain in the butt. I quite like that. And I think SEGA did a real good job with making this and creating such a good Sonic game, which seems to be putting Sonic back on the right track. And and it really shows the potential of how much further Sonic Team can go with this, improve on this, make it more enjoyable, more fun, a lot better to play, all that jazz. And I just love, what this game brings to the table and what it shows Sega and Sonic Team can bring even further into the future. And I enjoy that. Not enjoy that. I like that. And it just shows that even though Sonic Team's made a few bad games in the past, less than subpar or whatever you want to say, this just shows that they are capable of making a good Sonic game. And even though Sonic's been lacking, I'm pretty sure this shows that Sonic will have some pretty good games in the future, as long as they don't make the same mistakes as they did in the past, like if they don't rush it. As long as they keep these things well made, I see that Sonic Generations brings a vision of the future of Sonic, and allows it to be, a better game series, allows it to be a better franchise, brings it back to that point where Sonic was able to compete with, Mario and was able to hold his own. Unlike now where Mario's such a big giant and Sonic's been lacking, it's almost no contest. And, I really just don't have that very many problems with Sonic Generations. And, I think it's very enjoyable. I would recommend it to anybody if they have a 360 PS3. I haven't played the 3DS version myself. I wish I could, but I don't own a 3DS. But, the 360, PS3, PC versions, is a great game. I would recommend it to new gamers, younger gamers, or even older gamers. Like if you got out of Sonic because you were disappointed with games like Shadow the Hedgehog or Sonic 06, and if you got away from it, I would recommend picking up Generations over Unleashed or Colors. Well, if you have a Wii and not a 360, I'd recommend picking up Colors if you can't get Generations. But either way, it's just a very well-made game, and that's my personal opinion. If you agree or disagree, feel free to post them in the comment section. Make few video responses, anything. That is a-okay. I am open to listening, and whatever you want to say, whatever you want to disagree with, agree with. I will definitely listen, or try my best to if I have the time, and we'll see if either I can discuss or debate with you, whatever you want to do, or whatever. But still, I think that this game is well enough that, it can hold its own, and that it's definitely recommendable. I'm pretty sure anybody can just pick this up and just say, hey, this is pretty good. And at least it shows that, that Sonic Team is capable of making a good game after subpar games like 06, Black Knight, and all that jazz. But the main thing that gets me is some of the critical response to it. Like, I am actually glad that IGN actually got smart and gave it a better review, giving that an 8. Which, I can agree with an 8. I mean, I think that's a pretty good review. I would not put this as a 10 or a 9 or anything like that. I think an 8 is, almost probably overshooting it a little. I mean, I don't think it deserves an 8, especially because the game's a little too short, and it still has its minor problems that can be overlooked, but definitely need to be improved on. But it was mainly Game Informer. When I got Game Informer's issue that had the review, and it was given a 6.75. If any of you have seen my one-sentence response, that's kind of where I'm getting from that. I didn't agree with Game Informer's 6.75 review. I think that's a little low, and it makes it's kind of a black stain, and almost makes the game look like it's not worth picking up. And I think the reviewer must have some kind of bias or something against Sonic, because City Escape and Rooftop Run, were both remade into better levels. In the Rooftop Run level, there's no werehog at all. And in Crisis City, it was, you think about it, you don't have all the same problems and glitches of Sonic 06. So, I didn't think it really deserved that whole comment of how the modern era was a reminder of the games that, that stained Sonic's reputation. When I've played Crisis City in Sonic 06 and Sonic Generations, and I think both Act 1 and Act 2 of Generations was a lot better than 06 as a whole, really. And I didn't really think that it didn't remind me of the frustration I got with Crisis City with how bad that game was and that level itself. I didn't have all that frustration. I wasn't reminded of that. I was reminded of how much better this game was and how much better job this game can do. And with my personal opinion and my review and all, I mean, I give this game about a good 7.5 at least, because this game is good. I don't think it's excellent or perfect. I think this game is real good, but there are definitely a bunch of things that I didn't care for. I think really hold it back, like the short or annoying boss fights. Like, I like the Death Egg robot. I thought that was a nice boss battle, but I didn't care for the second half trying to force the hand to hit the bombs and then having to roll up the arm to hit his head. That really gave me some trouble at first, especially because, for one, it was kind of confusing, and two, especially because once all the platforms are destroyed because the arm hits them all, it's very hard to climb on that arm, and it drags the fight out a lot longer, and that was a bit of a pain. And same with Perfect Chaos. I felt like some of the platforming sections were kind of annoying because either the camera was just kind of at a bad angle, or it just kind of made it drag out a little too long. And especially Egg Dragoon. I think I had a lot of problems with Egg Dragoon because that fight dragged out pretty long, and I didn't like how I'd be so close to hitting him, but then he'd change the fight, and then I have to wait to hit him. Little stuff like that. Also Time Eater. I mean, I think I agree with a bunch of other reviewers, like Some Call Me Johnny from Brain Scratch, saying that this was one of the worst final bosses, supersonic fights. I think I agreed with pretty much everything he said. If you don't know what he said, go ahead and try and look up his video. His channel is featured on my channel, so you can go through that. But I agreed in the fact that it was very hard to see rings. It was very annoying to figure out how to hit him. And of course the annoying helpers, like those annoying voices that told you about the homing shot that said it every other 5 minutes, and that absolutely drove me insane. I'm not gonna lie. And but I hated how I couldn't see the rings, and I died so many times because I would get low on rings and I could hardly see the rings, and by the time I saw the rings, I was already flying past them, and they had already got out of the screen, and I couldn't collect any, and I would die by a shortage of rings most of the time because I couldn't see them, and that hindered my my gameplay for that, because I would get like one hit in or two, and I couldn't get to the last hit because I would run out of rings until well, for my tip on this, if you play the final boss, and if you end up having trouble with it, my little small tip is, if you're running low on rings, switch to Classic Sonic view. When you switch to Classic Sonic, it's a little easier to spot the rings, and because of that, if you can see them coming, the best thing to do would be to collect rings there, and then go back to Modern, if he's in Modern or whatever. Then try to hit him. That's my little tip, because that's how when I noticed I was low on rings, that was my best thing to do. But it will waste a bit of time, so you may not get a high rank. I mean, you might end up getting a B or a C. But that's my little tip for y'all. If anybody needs a little bit of help, and you haven't gone on to GameFAQs or anything like that yet. But I didn't care for the final boss fight. That was something that definitely could have been improved. And another little aspect about the game is the skill system. And I like the skill system. I will say a lot of skills do seem pointless, and it kind of reminds me of the accessory and battle gen system of the Dissidia games. With the fact that the accessories you put on, they can be very specific and very, I don't quite know the word, but basically, because they're so specific, if you put on an accessory for that battle, you have to, work up the, forgetting the word here, but, Basically, you have to meet its demands in order to get it to work. And with each accessory that you put on, once you meet its demands, its effect will, happen. And I almost feel that way with the skill system of Sonic Generations, because a lot of the things seem very pointless or, just very specific. Like, to the point where it has its uses, but you have to be so much of a hardcore player that's where you can find the uses. A lot of things you can find uses on, like acceleration or strength, which allows you to either move faster or not lose momentum and speed when you climb up hills. Stuff like that, and that's pretty useful. But I do think that is something that can also be improved on. I think it's a good idea, but definitely if they are going to keep such a thing, they do need to improve on it. But along with the skills, you do get the ability to turn into supersonic, which, like what some Call Me Johnny said, it is very short-handed, with the fact that it doesn't really affect speed or skill like what it did in Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 Knuckles, with the fact that it doesn't add that much speed, and sometimes it just seems like it's a glorified invincibility. With classic Sonic, that's pretty much what it is. It's just a glorified invincibility that uses rings. With modern Sonic, it just basically allows you to boost in the air. Basically, you can jump and boost, and you could practically skip over the entire level, but it uses like 2 rings per second. So that's a bit of a pain. And it's useful, but if you try and go the whole level like that, you're going to run out of rings before you get to the end. And, I guess I don't care for that. But, that's why I say this game has great potential. It shows that a lot of these things can definitely be improved on, can definitely show better mechanics in future Sonic games if they build off this, But all around, past all these nitpicks, I think this game was, fairly enjoyable. I think it's good. I don't think it's perfect. I think it's good. I think it's pretty good. That anybody can pick up and play it. You can recommend it to just about anybody if they've got the console for it. I don't have any comments on the 3DS version. If anything, the only thing I can say is that if modern Sonic stages are truly like Sonic Rush, then, well, I don't think there'd be any problem with that. But if y'all want to disagree or tell me your, opinions on the 3DS version, go ahead and do that in the comments or video response. Whatever your preference. I'm open to listening and whatnot. But, other than that, this game is fairly good. I mean, my final score on it is a 7.5 out of 10. Feel free to agree or disagree. Agree to disagree, that's fine by me. I'll do my best to listen and read all the comments, see all the video responses or anything, whatever you post. That's up to you. But, that's my thoughts and opinions on Sonic Generations. I like the game. I think you should recommend it to a friend. But other than that, if you haven't picked it up, pick it up if you can. Go ahead and give it a shot. And if you're skeptical, go ahead and rent it. If you're able to. I think renting would also be a good idea because it's a fairly short game. And if you're the type of guy or player that plays a game till the end and don't worry about all the extras and all the other extra rewards and stuff, I'd recommend renting it because it's fairly short and you'd probably get bored of it after you finish it. But all around, it's a good game, and I say pick it up if you can. I'm Sketch, and thank you for watching and listening. I look forward to seeing any opinions or comments or etc., and I will catch you guys later.